Our next presenter is Kevin DeForge. He's a principal at St. Dominic Fine Arts School and the Supervisor of Educational Technology at Calgary Catholic School District. Kevin's been a principal with Calgary Catholic for 6 years, most recently at St. Dominic, as I mentioned. He's begun transitioning to his new role in the district as Supervisor for Educational Technology. He's the 2016 recipient of Canada's Outstanding Principal Award, as well as the Alberta Council for School Leadership, Distinguished Leadership Award in 2014. His presentation, entitled Breathing Life into Data, will focus on digging deep into the Our School survey data with the purpose of making meaningful change for students. You can find out now how the administration team and staff at St. Dominic avoid analysis paralysis and breathe life into the data to best support their students' needs. So please welcome him for this topic. Here's Kevin with Breathing Life into Data.
Good day, everyone. This is kind of different for me because I'm looking at a screen and I'm not seeing people. So if there's any complaints, I won't know about it. So
they're all smiling and very happy. They're all smiling and very happy, Kevin.
First off, I just want to, like I said, my name is Kevin DeForge. I was the principal at St. Dominic Fine Arts School, and within the last couple of weeks, as of May 1st, became the new Supervisor of Educational Technology and Fine Arts for our school district. So there's an event going on today at our district that's huge. It's the Student Art Walk, and that is a piece of what I've got to be doing today, or get to be doing. I want to first of all thank the Learning Bar with our school and our district for supporting me to do this today, because this is kind of unusual, being able to go through this whole piece virtually for you. So hopefully virtual me does as good a job as real me there for the day. If you can see also, I've included some of my information. If you want to follow me, I'm an avid Twitter person and I also have a blog. And I use that quite often to relay information to the school and the school community. And you'll see a little bit more about that later on as we go through. So with the Our School data, I'm all about data being relevant. And often if you do nothing with it, data is just simply useless. And so when we did the Our School data, you'll see in the bottom left hand corner, the deep dive. When I started at Dominic in 2015-16, you'll see that there was quite a bit of anxiety, especially in our grade 6 students, and we were trying to figure out why. And of course, that was a piece that the staff had to dig down in. We also saw that our girls were experiencing roughly about 10% higher anxiety around all areas, especially peer relationships. With that piece, you'll also see in the right-hand side there, I like to do infographics. So I summarize the data in basically one page so that the community can really digest it versus the whole large 20-page document with graphs and everything. It's very tough when people are busy to see it. So I like to do infographics, add a little bit of humor to it, and also give an idea of where we're going and what we're doing as a community because of it. So if you look at the Our School data for our school, we saw the data issues around boys and girls and anxiety, and then we wanted to dig deeper with those special questions that they have that we're allowed to add. And we wanted to see, as a fine arts school, how did that look for our students? And you'll see here, performing and presenting, which shocked us, was that it was the highest. So kids in a fine arts school, even though it's an integrated fine arts school, not a performing school, were experiencing the greatest anxiety around performing and presenting. And then, of course, we see like test taking was also a big issue, and their peer interactions were quite high. They were very anxious around each other, and also even with staff, we were finding that there were some discrepancies there. So we decided to try and do something with the staff around that, and that meant that there needed to be some change, and that this is the whole impetus for change. Like I said before, data without any thought put behind it, without addressing it, the elephant in the room just becomes ignored, and that's not what we wanted to do as a school community. So here's where we went. with that. We discovered a few major areas that we could start to make changes that could really help the kids in terms of their confidence, and hopefully reduce that anxiety piece. And if you look in the top part, one of the biggest pieces I'll share with you today is that growth mindset piece. Many of you have probably heard about Carol Dweck's studies and her information, but we had to dig deep with it and not just do it surface scratching. You'll see the cute cartoon characters. We did the Star Wars because it was popular at the time and is popular again. And kids tend to buy into those a little better than just a bunch of graphics thrown at them. The other piece with Fine Arts School, it led naturally to doing a lot of project-based learning, inquiry, those kinds of things. We switched from kind of quiet halls to kids dancing in the halls, kids doing their singing, their songwriting, all those kinds of things that they like to do in a fine arts school environment, anywhere. There were days where I'd walk into the staff room to get a coffee, and I'd be entertained by a bunch of kids singing and dancing, and they'd say, "Oh, should we stop?" And like, "Carry on. I didn't expect any entertainment today." So that was a piece that we unraveled for our staff, and we started working with a few of these other areas. We were lucky as if you look in the bottom left-hand corner with the school support worker, we were lucky to be given one of those in an elementary school. Because there was a lot of need and anxiety, we wanted to find, the district found a way to support us with a person who was half-time there to work with the kids. And she did a wonderful job. Before, her role was kind of a little bit of triage, but now we tried to change the focus. And she developed groups like friendship groups, especially for those females, the young girls who were having troubles, boys with anger issues, of course, triage still. And then the other piece we added was her going into classrooms and being a part of the classroom, more like a sort of a secondary teacher in there sometimes, because if you just go to see her when things are falling apart, then it's not good. It reduces the anxiety when you have that support person with you, just working with you while you're doing math, where you may have your anxiety. And then I guess the last piece was enhancing communication to the parents. We got to be a part of a Google Classroom pilot this year. But even before that, we were tweeting, we were sending information in emails. I was creating videos that we could use, basically celebrating what the kids were doing. And as everybody began to speak the same language and understand what the kids were trying, it reduced everybody's anxiety, including the parents. So from there, if you get a good look, you can see kind of where we went with the growth mindset. You looked at the force versus the dark side, and of course, the fixed mindset is something that we wanted to start removing from not only our kids' vocabulary, but our teachers, our support staff, our admin team, and our parents. We couldn't have people that were all fixed, and I'm not a math person, I'm not a fine arts person, especially in a fine arts school. We had to change that. And so the force part, the growth mindset, is where we went. We wanted people to understand that intelligence and talents and all of that can be developed, and it takes some time and patience and proper wording. And that has been a part of it. We've added that to our assessment piece. We've added that to how we talk. We do formative assessment with it. And I keep saying we, but I've moved out of this position. I guess I have to remember that. They continue to do that because I touched base with them over the last couple of weeks, and make sure that students are feeling safe in the way that they do the learning and the way they present the learning. So the dancing, the video making, all of those things that go with making it natural for kids, it was still continuing. You'll see off to the left there some stairs. I'd seen the idea out there on Twitter, and so we started putting messaging. We have a bunch of other stairs where we put positive messaging to them. We wanted them to see that they count. We wanted to see that they matter. We wanted them to see that who we were as a community. And that's just one piece of it. And it was important for them to daily sort of reflect on that. And we can't always be saying things all the time, but sometimes the messages on the stairs remind them. And that was a kind of a good lead-in for us to get the kids just to start thinking about those things by having it as part of their environment. So from there, you can see how we made it live in the building. Growth mindset, I'm focusing on that. We had the school support worker, we had the project-based learning, we had a few other things, but this was probably the areas where you started hearing kids and staff using the language, and you knew that's how it was taking. it was beginning to become a part of our culture. And that's where we were starting to breathe life into that data. The data was, we were experiencing anxiety and we weren't sure where to go from there, but now we're seeing kids start to talk a little more confidently, and that was a huge part of it. So you see off to the far left, the visual messaging in the halls and the classrooms. I'm going to speak to that here because that was kind of funny. We have this wonderful bulletin board, and we have the messaging on the stairs, and we talk it. But it was funny because one of our high anxiety students, quite unique to see her stressed about an assignment that she was dealing with and banging her head on the growth mindset board, and not really quite figuring it out. So sometimes you got to take that step back. So stepping her back, having her read the stuff on the board and saying, okay, well, you made a mistake, which is fine. It's okay to fail. So we do that first attempt in learning or frequent attempt in learning. And how do you go about it again? What strategies did you miss when you went through this? And how can you correct it? And know that we're not judging you, because as a staff, I asked the staff to take risks in front of the kids too. You did a great job of doing that. So the Grow Your Mind Grow Your Brain board was quite funny in seeing a child banging their head on it in frustration. So that taught us that messaging is important, but making it live in the building had to become more important. We had to do those conversations and deep dives with them around some of the data we saw. The second part, you see digital communication. That's kind of my background. Obviously, if I'm in ed tech, technology is something that I enjoy. It's a passion. So I tried to find a way to make that work in the fine arts in that it was promoting it. And so my blogs, you'll see a little snap there, the blogs where I gave communication to the parents in and around what we were doing with growth mindset, and regularly sent messages monthly with that. The blog piece became less of the, here we are, it's April, we're doing this and this in the school. It was more about what's going on pedagogically in the world of education and how we were meeting it as a school. And so growth mindset was one of those. We had our teachers communicating. They had blogs. They had Google Classroom, our front foyer screens. We had like thoughts of the week, but they were always around growth mindset and getting yourself to be confident with who you are. And it's okay to make mistakes and take risks. And then also how to take critique. If you look here, our district's got a huge focus this year on championing. And we have our assistant principal there. She's working with a core group of kids. And some of the work she did one-on-one with them, as well as all of the staff, it made it very important. That brought it to the real level, like right down to the kid level versus this, like the bulletin board, like the big messaging on the front screens. It brought it to the personal level where the kids could spend some time talking to the teachers in the building, and so that they could trust the adults that we would be there for them. And then the last one here, we've really started focusing as a district again on assessment, but as a school, we turned it around and did some growth mindset with that, especially with the formative. So even when we're feeding back through Google Classroom or through a Google Doc or a slide or Prezi, whatever they're doing, they are in the comfort zone of sharing it with staff. And the feedback isn't just the final assignment. There's comments along the way we make, and now they feel safe to be able to say, as a staff member, you might feed in and say, I love the way you did, you show detail in here. Could you elaborate a little more on this fact? And the kids became comfortable with hearing that from staff. I often typed in myself because the kids were comfortable sharing with me, and they knew that if they shared anything with me, I would certainly feed back into it. So that's where that formative assessment became very important. We wanted the kids to know that whether it be physical board, whether it be a digital messaging, whether it be verbal one-on-one communication or their assessment, that it was across the whole board that we were talking the same language, and the parents were hearing that, and they were beginning to see it, and they were beginning to speak it themselves. It doesn't work if you spend all day long barraging a child with these concepts, and then they go home and the parents are old school in terms of saying, well, where's your A, where's your high mark, and oh, you could have done better. If they're not thinking in those terms, they're not helping the child. So we wanted to work with the parents, and they did a wonderful job of accepting this. From there, you look more at this year. So I was in the school for less than 2 years. I started in basically late August 2015, and then moved out this year in May. So within a year, roughly, you see a change in data. We see our students starting to experience a little bit less stress. Actually, look at that one slide with the data. That's the previous data. It actually reduced down to the 37% down to 21%. So for the girls, and then it was like 18% for the boys. So you saw that the children really change in the way that they were feeling about themselves. And the deep dive helped us sort of figure out boys and girls and grade levels, and that helped. Actually, the chart, I apologize for that. The chart you would see was more around the grade 4 level being a little bit higher, and that was because we'd also gone through a teacher shift this year. And just getting to know the new teachers probably caused some anxiety, but once they got on board and started talking, you saw the kids feeling confident. Okay, this is familiar. It's a year later. It's a different teacher, same field. So if you look at the infographic more so towards the right, the middle and the right, the anxiety levels for this year went down to 25% overall. So we went from 32% the year before to 25. That's a 7% dip, but that's a lot over roughly 300 and some students. Then the next piece, if we look at the performing and presenting, they went down 55% down to 41%. Test taking went down to 32%. The most significant was peer interactions. For me, anyway, it went from 37% of anxiety around their peers down to 6%. And that was confidence in being able to express themselves and critique and still feel safe. Know that their teachers aren't judging and know that their peers aren't judging. And definitely know that, the parents were coming around to understanding that. We even had the kids presenting in our school council meetings. We moved some of them to the day, and they would present information to the parents, so the parents could actually see what their kids were doing and what they were learning. So that was a way of taking the Our School data and make it start to come alive, rather than just that piece of it's all focused around our needs. Like I said earlier, it could have been a staff saying, well, it's just a bunch of kids. What do they know? Part of my background, part of my training is in around student voice and choice, so looking at student-driven learning. And so when we sat down, people were really open and honest about what that all means. To the far right, you'll see the infographic we shared out this year with the Our School data, and I know it's small. It was just to sort of give you an idea of how I snapshot everything for everyone, so that they're not trying to figure out what page is important, what data is important. If you look in the middle, it's hard to see, but we went from 7.1 out of 10 students who felt that what they were learning in school was relevant to the real world, up to 7.7. Now that's roughly a point shift, but that means about 8 out of 10 kids felt like what they were learning through us, through the teachers, was relevant, and they felt safe learning it. And again, down at the bottom, I took the Our School data, and you'll see we wanted to see how kids learn best through the fine arts, and we wanted to know we were addressing that. So that also brought that comfort level, because if we're doing all one kind, like visual arts, and missing, say, a little bit of drama or missing other pieces, we weren't addressing the whole child or all the children. So what I did was take the data that came from those specialized questions in Our School, and put it into a Wordle, a visual Wordle. It's actually called Tagxedo. And you'll see that they, from there, just barely on the screen over in this section here, you'll see like they like to draw. There's a big focus on, you'll see painting and art. So we started to say, okay, well, some of these areas, maybe we're missing some of these and we need to address those. And then finally here was a simple graphic which we designed around the picture of the school, which was just, what do you felt, what are 3 words you could use to describe this school? How do you feel when you come here every day? And when we saw that the kids were feeling safe, there was a lot of words around safe, fun, of course, art in a fine arts integrated school. They awesome, you can see awesome as part of that, and that's always a great word. They felt that they were comfortable in sharing that. And what's really great is this is just raw data. This is just raw words they use. I didn't edit it. So you can see that there was a lot of positive emotions, and working with kids in grades 4 to 6, that's a difficult thing sometimes. Sometimes you want to make sure that everyone is truly understanding what you're about. So this is just a breakdown of it here a little bit closer, so you can see that. The reason why we made the words take the shape of the school is I wanted the kids to sort of have a feel that is a part of their building. It is a part of who they are and where they live. And, you know, they're happy and they're creative and awesome, they say. And so those personalized questions, I really appreciated those from the art school because it could give us a chance to find out what we meant as, for us, a fine arts school. Before this school, I was in a rural school, so the questions around there were very different because we needed to know what that meant for them, and we had a higher FNMI population, and the data in there was relevant for them. So I would advise to you, when you get an opportunity, often we kind of skip over those questions and think, you know, just let them be. If you really think hard about what you want, and we talked to the staff about this, these were some of the areas they wanted to know and what they wanted to hear from the kids. I guess at that, to keep it really simple, because I know I had about 20 minutes or so here, I wanted to say thank you to everyone. Like I said, this is kind of awkward, not being able to see you and just being a face on the screen for you. But I do appreciate that you've given me the opportunity to have this time, because I think with the art school, you see a deep dive into what kids can be doing, what we can be doing as a culture in schools. And, you know, I gave the growth mindset example in just one school, but there are many other things you could be doing. And like you see, I like to use the infographics, kind of the techie in me, but it's a way to summarize that data really quick and get it out there to people. So having said that, I thank you for your time. I'm used to kind of doing questions, but I'm not sure that I can see your hand. So I leave you with that. And I thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of the conference. I wish I could be there, but like I said, this is something that's also wonderful, and I get to go share in children's art, which is all around downtown, and meet with them today. So that's another wonderful opportunity that I have, assuming this new position. Take care and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Kevin.